Welcome back to Preps Today with John Millea, starring, you guessed it, John Millea from the MSHSL. You can find his written work at mshsl.org under John's Journal. You can hear his spoken word artistry here. We're going to hit a bunch of very diverse topics today, everything from Don Staley and Tessa Johnson of the Timberwolves to Farmington, coaching news, track updates, wrestling, notes, MVT, all that stuff. It's going to be a great show, as it always is. Thanks to our longtime sponsor, Pizza Barn in Princeton. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studio. Just a side note, one of our first sponsors on this network got us going was Twill in the Edina Galleria. Scott Dayton's having a special event with Grayson on Friday. If you can make it out, buy 3, get 1 free. He only sells top quality stuff. Great for gifts. Check it out. Tell him we sent you. And if you like this show or any show at TalkNorth.com, I highly recommend right now the John Krasinski Show on the Timberwolves, Chin Music with Roy Smalley, Lavelle Neal, and myself on the 2 hot teams in town. If you like a show, please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. And now, John, let's talk about this fun Timberwolves team.
Yeah, Jim, you were there. We're talking on Thursday. You were there at practice today. And I don't know if I saw this coming. Certainly they had a good year. Certainly took an upturn. But you think back to a year ago when I think a couple players were throwing punches at each other on the bench, last season, and they were punching walls. And now this is a well-oiled machine. Everybody seems to get along, and more than get along. And that's pretty important to winning, I think.
It really is. And this dovetails with what most good high school coaches and athletic directors are trying to create. Of course you want to win, but it's really important to try to win the right way. And one thing Tim Connolly and Chris Finch have always talked about is you don't want to go to work with a bunch of jerks, and you don't, and I think one of the biggest, listen, the Gobert trade has worked beautifully. They gave up a lot to get him. So it should have had an impact. Yeah. I think the genius move here was Tim Connolly trading D'Angelo Russell, who did not like Rudy Gobert, did not want to play with him, did not want to pass him the ball. Yeah. You removed a big problem on your roster, and in exchange, you get Mike Conley, one of the best people in the NBA, great leader, great teammate, just won teammate of the year, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who was an underappreciated role player who has blossomed into be one of the best defenders, period, not bench defenders, one of the best defenders and 3-and-D players in the NBA. You took a guy you didn't even want around, and you got 2 of the 7 best players on what might be the best team in the NBA. That's sheer genius. Yeah,
people are talking about the NBA Finals, the NBA Championship. It's amazing. I covered the Timberwolves back in the Garnett days, and the last time they were in the Western Conference Finals. And this team is better. This team is better than those. And the way the 2 butt kickings out in Denver, and game 3 coming up here Friday night here. It's remarkable. It's so much fun to watch. I mean, boy, between Caitlin Clark and the women's basketball tournament, and now the Big Ten tournaments being at Target Center, and now the Timberwolves, the Lynx are getting started. This is a basketball town, kind of all of a sudden.
It really, I always thought it was a basketball town in a lot of ways. I remember going to a Minneapolis MCTC game one night, and like Flip Saunders and Sam Mitchell, it was like they're all these basketball, geeks, just couldn't get enough basketball. They wanted to see as much. And I just think the only thing that's depressed the reputation is that the 2 most celebrated teams, whether they should be or not, the Timberwolves and the Gophers men's basketball team, have not been particularly good, or at least not consistently good. Yes. Obviously the Lynx, did all they could to make this a basketball town, but it's a lot easier when the Wolves are good.
Sure is. And speaking of women's basketball, you wrote a nice column. You saw Dawn Staley. She was in town, and the coach of the women's basketball national championships from South Carolina. They've got a Minnesotan on their roster who was huge in the tournament. Talk about that evening with Dawn Staley.
Yes. And by the way, along with Aquarius Home Services, Pizza Barn, and my friends at Twill, I also want to thank one of our newer sponsors at TalkNorth.com, Bay to Bay Boat Club. We'll tell you more about them later. Yeah, so Dawn had a really nice event at St. Catherine's. It was her with Leah B. Olson, a longtime Minnesotan athlete and reporter, and Leah did a great job. It was just a very pleasant night. Dawn told a lot of stories. She teased Tessa Johnson about wanting to eat candy all the time. But it was funny because she also said that, she has such a high, she didn't put it exactly this way, but I'll paraphrase. Dawn says that she has such a high profile that she can't like just go to high school games and sit in the stands, because then all of her competitors will realize she wants the player and show up. So she tried not to show up to many of Tessa's games. Yeah. But the last time she saw her was like, I think, an AAU tournament the summer before her senior year at St. Michael Albertville. Yeah. And she watched, she said, "Oh, I need Tessa. I need her." And guess what? Tessa ends up being a star in the national championship game against Caitlin Clark. So really another sign of where Minnesota high school basketball is, that, Dawn Staley, who could get all the talent she wants in the Southeast United States, came up here to get Tessa Johnson.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's a great story. So yeah, it's a basketball town right now. It's amazing.
No doubt about it. All right, John, tell us about a special day in Farmington.
Yeah, Jim, getting back to the back to the high school ranks here. I was at a softball game in Farmington a few days ago. Egan played at Farmington. It was a special day set aside to someone who's absolutely revered in Farmington. Randy Schmitz is his name. He's a longtime hockey and softball coach in Lakeville and Farmington. He grew up in Farmington. He's fighting cancer, and the Farmington softball program and the community really did a nice thing for this game with Egan. The day was designated as Randy Day. And it was fun. It was joyous. Randy and his wife Nancy were honored in a pretty emotional pregame ceremony. Almost everybody wore purple. That's the color designated for pancreatic cancer awareness. I chatted with Randy. He told me he's doing well. The tests are looking good. He's got some time to go here. But like I said, he grew up in Farmington, graduated from Farmington High School in 1972, was the head boys hockey coach at Lakeville and Lakeville North for 24 years. He's a member of the Minnesota Hockey Coaches Association Hall of Fame. He was a head softball coach in Lakeville for 30 years. Now he's been an assistant in Farmington for about a decade. The kids love him. Paul Harrington, who's the head coach of the Farmington softball team, he and Randy grew up together. They're quite a tandem. So you can read all about Randy Day by going to John's Journal on MSHSL.org.
Excellent. Great stuff. Thank you for telling me about Randy. I lived in Lakeville. I remember Randy's name. I don't think I ever met him, but I just heard about him a lot.
Super nice guy.
Yeah, so best of luck to him.
You bet.
Tell us about coaching news.
Yeah, I think people may be aware of this weird hockey story. Boys hockey coach Mike Randolph at St. Thomas Academy. Mike's been told his contract won't be renewed next year. Mike finished this past season tied for the most wins in state hockey history, 700 and some. So he needs one more to be at the top of the list by himself. And he said, and I don't doubt Mike, I know Mike a little bit, he said he's going to be coaching somewhere next season. And we don't really know what went on here. It sounded like some folks at St. Thomas Academy weren't happy that Mike was living mainly in Duluth, where he's from. He had an apartment very close to St. Thomas Academy. He's 72 years old, had a Hall of Fame career at Duluth East. That's where people remember Mike Randolph from. And he went to St. Thomas Academy 3 years ago. He took Duluth East to 18 state tournaments, won 2 state titles. When he left Duluth East, he said it was due to, quote, parental pressure. I don't know. We don't know exactly what the story was at St. Thomas Academy. Neither side is saying much, but Mike's going to keep coaching. I don't doubt that a bit. So we'll see where he ends up. And one other coaching note, congratulations to Wadena Deer Creek baseball coach Kyle Dykoff. He recorded his 200th career win as a baseball coach. Kyle's also a graduate of Wadena Deer Creek, which makes it pretty special.
Yeah, great stuff. Great stuff already. We're going to get to track wrestling, some notes, and John's MVT. But tell us about what's going on at Pizza Barn in Princeton.
Yeah, last week, Jim, we talked about the Pizza of the Month for May, which did not have a name at that time. It now does. They opened up the Facebook page. Go to Pizza Barn on Facebook. They asked for ideas. The people have spoken. The official name is Hot and Poppered. Hot, letter N, Poppered. So this is the Pizza of the Month. Starts with the cream cheese, sour cream base. Then there's jalapenos, bacon bits, jalapeno cheese curds, freshly shredded mozzarella, easy for me to say. After it's baked, they add jalapeno poppers. Make sure to stop in, get that great Pizza of the Month throughout the month of May. We've talked about the food trucks. They are rolling. This week, they've been to Zimmerman High School, the Fernbrook Elementary School Carnival in Maple Grove. They'll be at Lupulin Brewery in Big Lake. And we, as always, want to thank our good friend Jody Stay, everybody at the Pizza Barn in downtown Princeton for sponsoring our podcast for all these years. We love doing this with them.
Yes, we do. Thanks so much to Jody Stay. We'll get back up there again. Partly do a podcast, partly for the free pizza.
Let's be honest. That's true. Yes. It works out.
We also want to thank Beta Bay Boat Club.
Beta Bay Boat Club offers a limited number of season-long memberships in our private club and half-day or full-day pontoon boat rentals on Lake Minnetonka. Members have the opportunity to play on luxurious pontoon boats as well as a variety of well-appointed deck boats, speedboats, and offshore boats. Our daily pontoon boats are deluxe, custom-built boats with many amenities and comfortable seating for up to 14 people. Beta Bay Boat Club, Country Club Boating, 24 years in business, and voted Minnesota's best 3 years in a row. Please visit us at betabayboatclub.com for more information. We look forward to welcoming you this summer.
And as a final reminder, we're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studio, and the best way to listen to this show or any show you like at talknorth.com. And we got the best sports lineup, best outdoor lineup in town. Please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. All right, let's move on to one of our favorite sports, track.
Yes. I am a track and field nut, as I've often talked about, Jim. So, of course, last weekend I was watching, I think it was on CNBC, some track and field relay qualifying races in the Bahamas. So in the men's 4x100 relay, the team from Liberia finished second in their heat, which puts them into the Olympics in Paris this summer. The anchor leg was run by Joe Fonbala, who we all remember, fabulous sprinter at Hopkins High School. This anchor leg was unbelievable. Talk about a rocket exploding. He tore down that track. And it's interesting. People say, well, Joe's from Hopkins. How can he compete for Liberia? Joe was born in Minnesota, born and bred, but his mother is from Liberia. That makes him eligible to compete for Liberia. And it gets even wilder. So 2 of the other 3 runners on that relay team are also Minnesota high school graduates. Akeem Sirleaf of North St. Paul, Emmanuel Matati of St. Paul Johnson. They have Liberian heritage. So 3 of the 4 members of Liberia's 4x100 Olympic team are from Minnesota.
Wow.
that amazes me. One more track note. We're now back to high school track. Last week I talked about Bryn Bakken, the superstar 9th grade sprinter from Hills Beaver Creek. She won the 100 meters at the Hamlin Elite Meet a couple weeks ago. Last weekend at the Howard Wood Dakota Relays in Sioux Falls, which is a massive meet, she won the 100 there. I think that meet started with 64 girls running the 100 meters, all kinds of qualifying runs. I had planned to be in Laverne earlier this week to watch her run, interview Bryn. Those plans got derailed, but I think I'm going to see her in Worthington Tuesday. There's a meet in Worthington. I'm going to try to get there. I've talked to Bryn's coach, Rex Metzger. It's a pretty neat story. So keep an eye on John's Journal for a story about Bryn Bakken, the fastest girl in Minnesota track.
Cool. And Joe Fonbula, I was at the Olympics, and we do a lot of planning. He was on our radar, but he wasn't high on our radar among all the Minnesota athletes there. But then he ran that one time. And we're like, oh man, we got to go get him. Yeah. So I spent like 2 days watching him run, and really cool guy. And man, he is talented. He's a big, strong guy who really flies.
It's amazing. When he was a younger kid in high school, he was a cross country runner. Wow. And, he looks like a tight end, or a linebacker. He's but he is so much fun to talk to.
He's a great guy.
He's one of those guys, always a smile on his face, always has a great day, always makes you feel good. So, good luck. Yeah, this will be his second Olympics. That's pretty awesome. It's
fantastic.
After he graduated from Hopkins, he went to the University of Florida, ran there for a couple years, did great things, and then he turned pro. The dude's a professional sprinter, so good for him.
That's fantastic. Yes. All right. Let's move on to another sport with athletes we admire and talk about the Wrestling Hall of Famers.
That is sure. That is for sure. And news from the Guillotine, 14 new members have been inducted into the Minnesota Wrestling Coaches Association Hall of Fame. I'm going to run down the list here. Luke Eustace, Ty Eustace, Wes Haglund, Mike Hendrickson, Chuck Marks, Jim Richardson, Dean Sallow, Doug Sallow. You can tell there's some family dynamics here. The Eustaces and the Sallows. Ray Thorkelson, Mike Thorne, Ardell Knudsvig, Gary Brantle, and Chuck Keogh. And you can read details on every one of those if you go to the Guillotine online. It's easy to find. That's the Bible of Minnesota wrestling. They do a great job. So congrats to all those wrestling folks.
Knudsvig, man, if that is a Minnesota name, right?
Ardell with a K, Knudsvig. That's as Minnesotan as it gets.
No doubt. All right, let's move on to John's notes and tidbits for the day.
Oh, we got some state tournament news here. We had our state robotics tournament last weekend at Williams Arena. It was a blast. I hung out there for a while. Congratulations to the state championship robotics teams from Mount Westonka, Becker, Minneapolis Southwest, and St. Peter. This weekend now, Friday, this week, we're going to have the high school leagues adapted bowling state tournament at Bolero in Brooklyn Center. If you know where Park Center High School is, it's just down the road. This is one of my favorite events of the year, the adapted bowling. It's packed in that place. It's loud. There's cheering, great competition, just smiles all over. It's fantastic. Speaking of state tournaments, people who go to a lot of state tournaments or watch on TV, they recognize the voice of Dave Giles. He's been handling PA duties at state tournaments, section tournaments, regular season stuff for a long time. Dave lives in Eagan. He's the voice of Eagan High School sports as a PA guy. During this week's Section 2-4A True Team track meet, they took a minute and honored Dave for 40 years of service as a PA professional. He's the best. And not too far from there in Apple Valley High School celebrated its 1,000th baseball game this week. They've only had 5 head coaches in the 48-year history of the program. Everybody was there. They honored the previous coaches as well as some top players from past years. I want to know, I think I know, there's a guy named Jeff Groves at Apple Valley. You met him when we would go to Apple Valley basketball games and the Tessa Johnson. Jeff is like he's a media relations guy. He's the record keeping guy. He does so many things at Apple Valley. You know, my first thought when I saw this tweet was, who's tracking how many games they've played? Jeff Groves. That's for basically every sport there. So kudos to Jeff Groves for putting that together, helping put that together, and 1,000 baseball games. That's pretty cool.
That's great. Yeah, Jeff was. I remember doing. When you and I both, you did it first, and I followed up the column on Zach Goring. He raved about Jeff.
Yeah, you bet.
Let's get to the most valuable teammate this week.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up here with our weekly most valuable teammate. Noah Thompson is a senior basketball player at Jackson County Central who's the epitome of a truly valuable teammate. He fires up the players and fellow athletes on the bench every game, all season long. He's the first one off the bench for huddles, offers constant support to players on the court. And when Noah gets on the court, he gives 110%. Congrats to Noah Thompson of Jackson County Central for being a most valuable teammate.
Excellent. Great show, John. I hope you enjoy the Timberwolves run, and the Twins are hot as heck too, by the way. And the Lynx are about to start up. It's a great sports town.
This town is the gold mine of American sports, is what it is.
It is. And
go figure.
And you can't guarantee championships, but there's a lot to enjoy right now.
Oh, so much fun. Yeah, I can't. My wife isn't much of a TV sports fan, but she asked me this morning, "Hey, what time do the Timberwolves play Friday? And what channel is it on?" So I did my research. We're ready to go. We are fired up.
Like I said, and one of the reasons you write about high school sports, one of the reasons I have written about high school sports is there's something kind of wholesome feeling about high school sports and the athletes you're around and the coaches. And you actually get that vibe with the Timberwolves a little bit. So it's a very easy team to root for.
That's amazing. Yeah. Good luck to the Timberwolves.
Yes. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Jim.